Hello, my name is Helen Diaz Rico, and as a future advisor and a student of the subject ICOL. I am going to develop a project for the training of teachers of secondary education centers so that they have sufficient knowledge for development for TILS methodology in the classroom. In first place, general objectives. The main objectives of the project will be to make teachers aware of, for example, principles and basic aspects of TILS, identify the language, scaffolding, learning visible, the thing of activities and tasks. And the specific objectives is each teacher will be able to put what they have learned from their specialty into practice. The methodology and timing. I would like to tell this project will take place in the teacher lands where the counselor of the center will gather up with teacher of the specialty taught in the center, and evening a week in session of 2 hours. In each session, they will work on each of the points set in the theme, and each project will last a month and a half. First meeting, principles and basic aspects of TILS methodology. In this session, the counselor will try to explain the teacher which are the fundamental principles of the practice of TILS in the classroom. This will be the language is used to learn content area, but you also have to learn in the order to understand and communicate it. That is, the usage of the language is significant because it is not the sole objective of the learning, but that there is a double objective. This implies that the TILS teacher needs to take into account the objectives of matter and the language in order to be accurate. Therefore, both the specific vocabulary and structures or the types of discourse, describe, report, etc., and also impart the language skill that can be practiced, listening, speaking, reading, or interaction, will be determined above and be the subject being taught. Fluency is more important than the grammatical accuracy and language in general. And this first meeting is essential for the learning of both the content and the language is developing with confidence. However, it will be necessary to take advantage of the opportunities that language offer, because if they make many mistakes, this can affect the comprehension and products of the content of the field. A key concept to help work the language form is the concept of the scaffolding. We will talk about such a concept through this course. Also, a third lesson should combine the following elements: content, communication, cognition, and culture. These principles refer to what in the field is essential to the collaboration between special of the ILDOs and the special of the different subjects, both in the design of material and the design of the work in the classroom. Section 2. Characteristics of methodology and strategies that the TILS teacher can use in class. In this session, we will discuss the strategy you as a teaching staff can use to base your class on the fields methodology. In order to do this, I will be necessary 1. A student-centered education which promotes the involvement of learning. At the same time, this learning should promote the cooperation of the parties, student and teacher, through the following ways. Discuss topic as tasks, starting out of which the particular subject, not which the general one. Using a example and a situation close to the reality that the student now. 2. Flexible teaching and facilitation roles, taking the different learning styles into account. This means in the first place to facilitate the understanding of the content and concepts, which you can do by using text for children, history, using maps, use graphic or organization of ideas, diagrams, timelines, and ultimately using a kind of scaffolding that so much be at different times. Number 3, learning more interactive and autonomous aspects that can be promoted and developed by work in pairs and groups, use of heading of evaluation, and strategy for evaluation. Number 4, use of multiple resources and material, especially which provides a context more rich and varied. On the other hand, this use also promotes the interactivity and the autonomy of the student. This aspect takes place mainly by use of digital resources, and in particular of the web, text, podcasts, videos, etc. And use of tools and space of the web or bookmarks or favorite blogs of the platform. What aspect of the language we must consider when we prepare a sales unit or activity? When we try to identify the types of language that characterize a given text or content of a subject that is taught in, we must consider the following points: the academic vocabulary and specific, as well as phrasal expressions that appear, words with special difficulty in pronunciation, and tense and modal verbs, type of phrase and the complexity of the same, subordination or coordination, other grammatical features, comparative, connector, preposition, adverbs, suffixes, prefix, etc. The type of discourse that represent the content, that is, if is a text that informal, describe discourse, definite, explain, give instructions, give example, comparatives, conjecture, etc. Finally, is it worth asking what skin among just that are considered as shafts: reading, listening, writing, speaking, are choices that are put into practice. 3. Session scaffolding in fields. At each meeting, we will try to bring teacher to the technique of the scaffolding, which we have seen in the subject and is of great interest because of its great contribution in the STIL method. Concept of scaffolding. The concept of scaffolding, equivalent of the English term scaffolding, is a key concept in the theory of education more relevant and it also the fundamental concepts in sales. The scaffolding is therefore choose structure, activities or strategy of support that the teacher sets for the student to build knowledge. It is not simply help the student giving an answer but facilitate and provide support that will help to those students who need to achieve their learning goals. The scaffolding is essential in sales and must be given to both the content and the language. An example of the scaffolding will be to improvise a table for the student to distribute the information that must be given a text that we want to check its word, or a time and line of the employee to complete with the date to find. Fourth section, learning visible. Within the methodology will also promote on the most influential aspects in learning. This is the feedback, both the one who offers the teacher that the student and the student teacher receives. In the first case, it is necessary to distinguish between the feedback and price. The latter has little value if it associates with the work that has been done. The feedback is more influential than the rating and must be individualized. On the other hand, the feedback is received. The teacher is very valuable as we will discuss later. The teacher-student also has a great impact. Development of a socio-emotional warm climate in the classroom. The promotion of the effort and the involvement of a student require that the teacher in the class with certain ideas on about the possibility of progress and the relationship with the student. One of the most influential aspects is the application of the approach that is referred to mastery learning, which assumes that all students are able to meet the criteria of success is the condition and appropriate learning. Normally, high level of cooperation between peers, teachers, lead feedback that is both frequent and individualized, allowing for the flexibility in the time that the student needs to achieve the goals. Section 5. The theme of activity for the classroom, step and element of the design. 1. Decide the theme that you are going to work, define the goals, objectives, and assessment criteria. Identify the language need to work such content, vocabulary, structure, speech, and skills. Think about the contextual element that can be related to tasks them to be closer to the reality of the classroom. Localize the resource you are going to ask, text or audio, video. Decide and prepare the final type of tasks and activity will take place in the learning process. Planning and design the type of the scaffolding that will form part of the activity to facilitate the language. Choose the tool that you can use, teach, touch, define the methodology, expect